We're going to do the semifinal between Paul DeSilva, who you just saw beat JT on Shops. He's playing against another Northeast guy, this time from the Philly area, Ben Katz, an old friend of mine at this point, honestly. It sounds crazy to say that I have old friends in the old school space, given we've only been playing it for a few years, but it's certainly the case. Ben is on, you know what Paul's deck is, a Bant Creatures. Ben is on a kind of, it's really, it plays a bunch of good cards, so in one sense it's not interesting, but the way that he arranged them is interesting. It's a mono blackish deck. Typical mono black cards, creatures. Ben loves Juhzhum above all things, so most of his decks start with 4 Juhzhums. He has 4 of those, 4 orders, and 4 hymns. Typical start. He also has 4 sinkholes. Then he splashes into his mono black deck. He's actually splashing 4 Sedge Trolls to go along with 3 discs. Pretty commonly played combo in old school, obviously. A little bit interesting here in that disc isn't usually played in these like Juhzhum order builds. In addition to that, he has a double splash, or really a triple splash for the blue cards, but his other main splash is for white for 4 Swords to Plowshares and 1 main deck Divine Offering. Very interesting here in that, we know in old school, the white removal is insanely powerful, right? Like it draws people to the color. It's some of the most powerful cards you can be casting. Paul totally eschewed Swords to Plowshares main and went with all 4 disenchants and no swords. And Ben basically did the same thing. He's playing 4 Swords to Plowshares main and has 3 disenchants in his sideboard. It's going to serve him well in this match where disenchant is approaching a 0 and swords is amazing against Paul's deck full of Arabian monsters. In addition to that, Ben's just playing the two good blue cards. He's not playing Time Twister because he's
okay. We're ready. You can just go.
A slow, grindy deck.
Yeah.
And we're going to start right now. They're going. Paul is on the play. I'm not sure who I think should win this matchup. Again, it feels like maybe the power of Hymn to Torok and Ben's 4 main deck swords might carry the day. Gun to my head, I would probably bet on that. Yeah. But I've lost a lot of money betting against Paul DeSilva in the past, so I really don't want to do that right now. Yeah. So it's an old school match. It's a matchup of powerful cards being cast by good players, and it could really go any way. It's a glorified coin flip. Should be great.
I'm really looking forward to this match. Not seeing Shops. Oh.
Exactly. Thank God. And that's part of the reason why these guys are on. If you want to get featured in one of Dave's tournaments or my tournaments or whatever, maybe don't cash Mishra's Workshop. Okay? That's all we have to do. No big deal.
No big deal.
And I know you don't cast lands. I don't want to hear it from the peanut gallery. Okay? All right, so Paul with arguably the worst possible start out of his deck, Factory Go. And Katz has the best possible card in his deck, which is Mox Jet, to go along with a first turn Sedge Troll that he knows he can safely cast because Ben or Paul doesn't. Actually, he does play Burn. So if he goes Mox, blue mana source Mox here and gets it burned, that would be mildly annoying. He only has the 2 Side Blasts, so it's unlikely.
Yeah.
But in general, Ben knows the coast is clear. Against a random deck, you're not really just playing a naked Sedge Troll, though. This is the advantage of public deck lists.
Yeah. It makes for more interesting plays, at least.
It does. Like I actually think I prefer it because I know what to play around. I think I do better. Like I'm a Glasses of Urza type of player. I know I play so much better when I have a much better indication of what my opponent's lines could be. In the dark against potentially any card in old school, I'm just much worse figuring out those decision trees. Yeah. I guess I'm not alone in that space, but here it's nice.
Yeah.
So now we see why one of the reasons why Paul kept his Factory Go draw, because he actually has Black Lotus. He knows Lotus is relatively safe from Ben because he doesn't have the draw 7s. He does have the hymns, but he would have been unlikely to play a turn 1 hymn. So that's probably why he didn't play it on turn 1, or he just drew it, I guess.
Yeah, that could also be the case.
We're going to find out right now. Feels like a mind twist to me. Oh, it is a Side Blast.
Oh,
so speak of the devil, he has one of the Side Blasts here and a Disenchant or Burn. Oh, a Time Walk. Okay. So that was a reasonable turn for Paul. Not insane. I feel like he would have much rather had a Mox Sapphire to just play the Side Blast and just move on with his life and not burn a Lotus for it, but
yeah.
But Ben really just had the perfect start. Mox and these decks that play him and Order and Sinkhole, Mox Jet is arguably the most important card in your opening draw. I guess you could always argue for Ancestral and maybe Lotus, but Mox Jet is right there, knocking on the heels of Ancestral as maybe the most important card in the deck. It just turns. It's just a literal time walk every turn, turning on all your BB cards on turn 1.
Yeah. But yeah, it's...
So again, normally you probably wouldn't attack with your only 2 lands into an open red source, but Ben is not playing Lightning Bolt. Again, he's playing splashing red. This is another interesting thing about his deck. He's splashing red for 4 Sedge Trolls, and that's it. He has Lightning Bolt in the actual sideboard of his deck. Probably on the short list for most best unrestricted cards in Old School is Lightning Bolt. Probably right behind Mishra's Factory and maybe Disenchant. Maybe it's better than Disenchant. I don't know, but it's right there. And Ben just said, I don't give a shit. I'm playing Sinkhole over it. Pretty impressive.
Yeah. And it looks like it was a bad decision to keep those lands, but let's see what he gets, Paul. Okay, so now
he probably just kept the hand on the strength of Lotus, knowing that if he has to, he can blow it to do something, which he did do. So he's holding his own right now, but I don't love his... No one has a huge advantage right here, I feel like.
No.
So if you're Ben, Simon, do you pop this orb here? Or do you wait?
For sure. Take his white
pop
mana.
It on the colored land or the factory? Yeah. I guess the colored land. Just
the colored land, yeah.
Because it feels like that's his, he didn't play a land last turn, right? So that's his only colored mana source. If he can play a Juhzuhms or something, or any bigger creature, even okay, so he's just going with the land D plan. Okay.
Yeah.
Now he can safely attack as well.
Yeah.
3/2. That's so you see playing Mishra's Factory feels like a very easy card to play, but it's probably one of the hardest cards to play correctly in Old School. Knowing when to attack into open mana and knowing how to block and do all the timing shenanigans. Those are very tricky things, and they're not all intuitive. It takes time to learn some of these things, and even now it's difficult to decide whether or not to attack into open mana. It depends on a lot of things. And so Mishra's Factory really is just one of the absolute most important, most dominant cards in this format.
Yeah.
Paul falling way, way behind here at this point.
Yeah.
Although I wonder what's in... Ben probably has, Swords to Plowshares and things of that nature in his hand, given that he's not casting any creatures.
Yeah.
Or he could have blue cards. He has no blue mana. I guess he might have a Time Walker or an Ancestral. Sinkhole? Oh, no, just Order.
Yeah. Just Order.
Right.
Yeah. I guess that's going to smash his face.
This card's Serene. All right, so we can just move on to game 2, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
And being nice about it. He probably has a Sinkhole in hand, and he's not even playing it because he feels bad. Oh, he drew the blue mana to go with the Ancestral that has very obviously been bouncing around in his hand. Let's see if he even casts it. Oh, no, he's using his blue mana. I think he's just being nice.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a one-turn clock. He pumps the Order. Takes five of Paul's last 10 life, and that's that.
Yeah.
All right, so a quick kind of mana screw game, although helped in part by Ben Chaos Orbing a land and Sinkholing a land. So it's not a full mana screw. Paul had a Lotus and 2 factories and another land. He had something to do at least. Yeah,
but again, the off-color lands doesn't do much in the beginning of the game. I think that's... Yeah.
No, that's a really good point. So while I said factory is super important, early on it's not what you really want to be doing, and that's part of the reason why I said the factory go plan from Paul was a pretty horrible start for him. You want those later on. Get all your shit out, slowly build up your factories, and then start attacking later on. Let's take a look at Ben's sideboard. There it is. So he has in his board, he has bolts. He has balance in his board. He doesn't care much about blasts or flux or disenchant or divine offering.
No.
I do feel like he probably wants bolts, though.
Yeah, the lions and the
right?
Yeah.
He has lions and pixies and factories
Yeah.
to potentially kill, and he can first strike away stuff with orders. I
Yeah.
think maybe you just caught like sinkholes or something for bolts, right? Especially on the draw, like you're less likely to tempo somebody out with sinkhole on the
Yeah.
draw. I think bolts probably just better.
Yeah.
It's just weird that those are in a sideboard. You don't usually see 4 lightning bolts in a sideboard.
Yeah.
I don't think he really wants those 2 blasts. All Paul really has is 4 dibs. I mean, maybe dib is. I guess he has disc, but dib isn't the easiest card for him. I could see maybe bringing in like 1 red blast because of the dibs. They fly over everything. Can't be bolted. All right, let's see what Paul has. I know we just looked at this, but we could bring it up again. He has, so the swords are obviously coming in for the trolls.
Yeah.
Probably the disenchants, but he needs disenchant for disc, so he doesn't want to take out all of them. Pixies are kind of medium here.
Yeah. They're not so good. Of course, they're good for early pressure, but they don't really block infinitely because it doesn't really have any artifacts.
Very quickly by the first strikers and sedge trolls and Juhzuhms
that
although I guess Savannah Lion also doesn't match up well against order. He's probably going to shave some of these little guys for 4 swords.
Yeah.
I don't think he cuts any of the good big creatures and maybe shaves 1, possibly 2 disenchants. Probably just 1 disenchant. I'm just wondering about those psychic purges, which he might want 1 or 2 because again they're obviously good against him.
Yeah.
And he does have order as well to do the double duty. Sometimes you don't want to bring in purges when all they have is hymns, but if they have order as well, you can always kill an order in a pinch.
Yeah.
I could see one or 2 of those. I don't think you want the full suite, especially because you don't have the room.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things going on here is normally against these mid-rangey creature decks, disenchant is kind of middling and is cuttable. But against Ben, he's keeping you honest by playing these discs that kind of really want you to keep the disenchants in, so you can't just free roll cut 3 of your 4 disenchants for like better anti-creature cards. It's just an interesting space that these disco troll decks keep you in because you need disenchant and swords, so you don't have a lot of room to play with. So given that, maybe he just skips all the psychic purges and just brings in 4 swords and shaves creatures and maybe 1 chant or something.
Yeah, because he don't need 4 disenchants. He only needs 1 at the right time.
You can easily cut 1.
Yeah.
Maybe even cut 2 because he can also maybe play around disc a little bit by not flooding the board. He has swords. He has swords to kill the trolls now, so that Ben can't pull too far ahead by playing a couple of trolls and then a disc and forcing Paul's hand a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe he just cuts 2 disenchants. It's possible.
Yeah.
The thing about disenchant though in old school, and it's part of the reason why I think it's not overplayed, but it's so safe to play in decks that otherwise wouldn't play it, is that factory's everywhere. So even when disenchant is kind of middling, you can always kill a factory with it late in the game, and you're going to find a decent use for a card because factory is such a powerful card. So it's kind of safe to keep your disenchants in most of the time, even if you don't necessarily need them, which kind of makes it a little bit of a less interesting card. I like disenchant in worlds that don't play 4 factories or factories restricted, because then it's an interesting decision, right? You keep in disenchants, kill moxes, and stuff. It's very different.
Yeah, it's a total different game.
Ben looks like he's mulliganing. Paul's on the play. He keeps. Ben mulligans. So Paul being on the play. Yeah, I mean, he's probably, like I said, he's probably shaving some of his little creatures, so he's less likely to come out aggro. But this is, again, all these decks are these sideboard things. In this round, there's no haymakers like last round with Flux and Bottle and Abyss and all that stuff. These are people just kind of fine-tuning their 75 for this specific matchup, which is just a lot of the way, more the way sideboarding works in modern day Magic, right? There's no color hosers and insanely powerful stuff like that in modern day Magic. In the olden days, you have, the flash fires and elemental blasts and city in the bottles of the world that just like fully hose certain strategies. But here, these guys aren't doing it. They're just taking a more modern sideboarding strategy and just fine tuning their 75s.
Yeah. And I think we're seeing more and more of those that, okay, they only have 2 or 3 of one card instead of like the 4 play sets, and yeah.
Yeah. Saw that yesterday in the last round with Dakota from Hawaii playing a very similar deck to Paul's, and instead of just going 4 ofs across the board, he had a bunch of 3 ofs that allowed him to kind of fine tune his deck and play more different cards, as opposed to just playing 4 different play sets. Oh, Paul off to again his worst possible start, which did not work well for him last game with Factory Go. All right, Ben has one of his best possible starts with Sol Ring Go.
Yeah.
Allowing for second turn Sedge Trolls, Juhzuhms, all sorts of stuff. All right, so Paul clearly ripped Library.
Yeah.
He gets a free attack in for 2, and then next turn he gets to use his Library. Depends on if Paul kept in sinkholes or not, which I just advised him to maybe not do, or maybe not keep in all of them. Killing that Library is extremely important. If he had a sinkhole now, he would be slamming it, so he clearly doesn't have one. Oh, maybe he wants to time walk first and see what he draws into, I guess. Okay, that's a great answer to Library.
Yeah.
Mind Twist for 4. Paul has 6 cards in his hand currently, so he's going to be down to 2 cards and 2 colorless mana sources, and this is not looking good for Paul. So he keeps numbers 1 and 3. Let's see what he loses. Disenchant, Time Walk, Lion City. Yeah, he was going to have a great turn next turn. He was going to draw a card with Library, cast Time Walk, draw another card with Library, play a guy. He was going to be off to the races.
Yeah.
Attack for 2, I guess. Might as well.
Yeah.
So if Ben has some kind of a follow-up here, I mean, if he could just... If slamming a Juhzum here is just actual... Oh, God. So Ben has it all. After his mulligan, he has Soul Ring into Time Walk, into Mind Twist, into Ancestral. Just has it all. This game is just over. Juhzum now. Play a Juhzum now for the absolute clinic.
That would be so nice. Oh, okay.
Oh, him. Okay. I guess away 2 of your last 3 cards. Okay. It's just mean. Keep 1. Discard. Blue Blast and Swords. Okay.
Yeah.
So Paul did bring in a Blue Blast or 2. That's interesting because you can't really, hit a Sedge Troll unless it's on the stack. Maybe he just was like, I need more answers, and maybe he thought that Ben would bring in Bolt and that would be, a more all-around useful card, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, so at this point, Paul's outs pretty much include Ancestral, Recall, and Time Twister. I think those are the only ways he pulls back into this game. Pixie's not the way. Oh, Demonic Tutor.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you do get Time Twister here over Ancestral because you have Library.
Yeah.
You can draw a Mana Force next turn. You can play land Time Twister with Library untapped. That's a way that you pull back into this game because Ben hasn't really been doing any damage, so he has time.
Yeah.
So this game is not over. It looked like it was 95-5. Now it's only 70-30 probably.
Yeah.
We're going to play the Time Twister lottery as we do in more games than not in old school. So we play the Draw 7 lottery. And we're about to play one more unless Ben has the case him to just fully put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
I'm on no beers today. I'm on mono Coke Zeros. It's just too early. I can't do the 11 a.m. beers.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the other thing, too, is so this day is going to end in like an hour, and then I'm going to have had like 3 or 4 beers and just hang out with the family all afternoon. It felt weird. So I decided make the slightly smart decision for once in my life. And
yeah. Yesterday was the party. Now we're just
Yeah.
like eating the desserts. So
exactly, exactly. If this is a him, oh no, it's not.
oh, it's the Juhzuhms.
Yeah, I mean that's huge though, because now he gets to put out a big threat,
And an
two big
order.
threats, because he
Yeah.
knows the time twister's coming now.
Yeah.
It's weird that he has both of those. He could have cast one of them last turn, so that's a little bit weird. But this is a clear time twister. Did Paul draw a land to go with his time twister? That's the question. Oh, he just went for ancestral. Went for the more old-fashioned route.
Yeah.
I guess maybe he's like Ben's too far ahead in mana, and if I time twister and let him untap with access to like 8 mana, nothing good could come from that. But it might be a risk you just have to take when you have library and you're this far behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, I think you have to do it. You have to do the time twister.
Yeah. Like when you're this is the thing. It's obviously very risky to time twister in this space, you know.
Yeah.
But right now, without time twister, Paul is a 90-10 dog in this match, right? Post time twister, you're spinning the lottery. Ben could draw 6 lands and a disenchant, right?
Yeah.
And Paul draws a handful of gas with library in play, and all of a sudden the table's turned. I think you have to spin that wheel at this point.
Yeah.
Pun partially intended. Paul's also not doing himself any favors by drawing his only colored mana sources are these Cities of Brass, which are just nickel and diming him.
Yeah.
I guess he it's a free attack. Ben's not going to block with that order, so might as well. I guess if he blocks with the order, you're not even that sad because that order is going to be a pain in his ass soon enough.
Yeah. Oh.
Strip, yeah. So, like, I guess at this point, library doesn't matter unless he ancestraled into Time Twister. The City of Brasses are killing him, and he has 2 of them, so you can't even take him off colored mana, so you clearly strip the factory at this point.
Yeah.
Definitely attacking.
Ben looks like he's getting a little bit flooded here, which is another path to victory for Paul.
Yeah.
I tell you, attack pump is not really where Ben wants to be at this point. He wants to be doing something more powerful with that mana. But I guess he already drew all his good cards, so what can he even do at this point? He drew Ancestral, Time Walk, Mind Twist, him. Doesn't have much left. He doesn't even play Brain Geyser, right? That feels like a mistake. I don't think he's playing Brain Geyser.
Yeah.
He only has 9 blue sources in his deck, 4 cities, 4 undergrounds, and a Sapphire, and I guess a Lotus. But these decks go long enough that drawing Brain Geyser on situations like this where Brain Geyser is literally draw 6 or whatever, it feels too important to eschew, especially because his deck it's not quick. It's not, it's grindy.
Yeah. Oh.
All right, so he did bring in bolts like we expected.
Yeah.
And Paul
Blue
had
Blast.
his second Blue Blast, so he brought in
the
both
second
blue,
bolt. Oh.
second bolt. So the sideboard cards all matching up perfectly. But now we're like, I wouldn't say we're at pairs. This is a lion. All right, we're like approaching parity. Ben has a slightly better creature and more mana on the board.
Yeah.
Like Paul isn't out. He's probably only 80-20 at this point, maybe. Yeah, and I guess this is the power of order, and this is why I've been screaming from the rooftops about how bad a card Black Knight is. Look at this order; it's attacking for 4 every turn. Where if that was a Black Knight, it's literally half the clock, maybe even less than half. And that order's so hard for him to deal with. Even a Serendip can't block it at this point, right? Because he's gonna be able to give it first strike and 4 power.
Yeah.
Can't sword it. He can disenchant, I guess, Soul Ring or maybe Mox Jet at that point. I don't know, but either way, he's on a. I guess it's a 3-turn clock. Nope, now it's a 2-turn clock because he can attack for 5. That's a reason why you maybe disenchant Mox Jet. It literally saves you 1 turn. I mean, he has to draw like Serendib to chump block at this point. There's just nothing.
Yeah.
Soul Ring.
Wow.
All right, that was a quick one.
Yeah.
You want to get these guys in? We'll talk to them a little bit. So we should mute ourselves in the Discord. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So, and Soul Ring, like him after the freaking,
Like that.
I knew you were bringing the swords in for the Juhzuhms.
Yeah.
But maybe you would bring the purges in because I got a little discard and orders.
Yeah. I didn't know if you would see the 4 purges and think you should take out hymns.
I'm just not afraid of it. You know, if you're gonna whack me for 5, you whack me for 5. I'm still getting cards out of your hand. Like I can't.
And so I ended up only bringing in 2 purges because I was like, oh, I'll just hedge my bets. Like, maybe.
That's fair.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
kind of what we thought you might do, Paul. Is just bring in 1 or 2 purges just to keep them.
Yeah, I brought in 2. Yeah, purge, and then swords.
Yeah, you clearly brought in the swords, obviously, and then you also brought in the blue blasts. It looks like.
And the blue blasts, yeah.
So what did you end up cutting?
I don't know. It was like a random smattering of stuff because I didn't know what to cut.
Yeah.
It was like, I cut 3 pixies. Just because they cost 1 more than a lion, and there's no artifacts to really worry about.
Yeah.
The lion did make a difference with that knight.
But you're not blocking it with a pixie anyway, so.
Yeah, exactly. I cut like 1 lion just because of the knights. I cut 2 dibs because I thought like there'd be rebs around. But maybe that was wrong.
Did you cut any disenchants against the discs, or did you keep them all in?
I kept them all in because I was worried about disc, and then I cut Twister.
You cut Twister.
So you couldn't get Twister with the DT.
We're like, why didn't you want to tutor for time?
Yeah, I thought he was gonna get Twister too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I cut it. And then I don't know why I cut these, but I did. And I'm embarrassed to show them, but I cut, I guess Mana Drain and Regrowth.
Mana Drain's fine. Regrowth, I probably wouldn't cut Regrowth.
I don't know. I didn't want to cut any more creatures because
at
like
some point you dilute your deck too much.
Yeah, exactly. So I was already cutting like 6 creatures, and I didn't want to cut any more creatures, and so I just started cutting like things that were more utility things. But...
And awkward, like Mana Drain's awkward.
Where are you guys in your match?
They're done.
This is game 1. Okay. We're gonna come into the room in a second, okay?
Wait, so
Dave, maybe play another turn or 2 and then just kind of pause and we'll let you know when to start again, okay?
Okay, I think that means.
All right, thanks.
I don't know if you guys can hear Dave.
So this is game 1. Okay, great.
So you can hear him.
All right, thanks. Yeah,
we can hear.
So anyway, that means that the other semifinal.
I freaking love those. Yeah, those are amazing. All right, we're gonna invade the room in a second. I'll be right back.
So that means that we're gonna ditch you guys for a little while and show the other semifinal.